Hey, listening to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MP. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Discord, we got Josh.
Hey.
Night of Champions was this past weekend. Obviously, we still have so many pay-per-views coming up in the next few weeks, but we got to look at these King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring tournaments and other matches and stuff. Let's leave the tournaments until later on and talk instead about the street fight, Rhea Ripley, Raquel Rodriguez. Pretty lengthy, 14-minute match, isn't bad.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's exactly what we expected. Rhea Ripley is the 20 late 20 aughts John Cena right now.
Yeah, just can't seem to get her out of that title division, right? It's similar, I guess, to Charlotte for quite a while, where every feud Charlotte was in was involving the championship. Here we do get Rhea Ripley, and we're like, okay, maybe they're gonna do a thing with Raquel. Nope, just beats Raquel, one half the women's tag champs, and then on Raw gets herself a match at Evolution for the title. And I kind of fear they're just gonna slot it back on her.
Yeah, they probably are. That briefcase though is always going to be a question mark as far as the women go. Uh,
Yeah.
but but yeah, it seems like they're just setting things up for Rhea Ripley to get another title reign. Maybe she wins it, then immediately gets cashed in on, and then starts chasing uh, Naomi. But I have a feeling that's not going to be the way it plays out, because I think we've pretty much locked in what champion that briefcase is going to be cashed in on.
Sure.
But yeah, we've seen so much potential in Raquel, and for the most part, she's just been used as a bodyguard and takes L after L after L against the top tier talent. And it just seems like so disheartening if you're a fan of her.
Yeah, just can't seem to break her away, right? She's been, as you say, bodyguard, tag champ. Um, just hasn't really mounted much in terms of singles momentum. Um, and it feels like, maybe if we had the Intercontinental and the United States Championships for the woman a few years ago when we had initially brought her up, that maybe she'd have had a chance to sort of make a name for herself there in that singles division. But I don't know. It's never too late, but it feels as though she's been pigeonholed, as you say, into bodyguard slash tag champ.
Yeah. Well, the injury she had didn't help. When she was getting her momentum, she got hurt. And so they may be gun shy on trying to push her into the top of the card again. Because
Maybe.
that does happen from time to time. All we have to do is just ask Dakota Kai.
I cry. I cry
Yeah.
twice, in fact.
Uh,
Um, yeah, we'll have to see. Obviously, Rhea Ripley, her future is locked in. She's going to have that title match against Sky at Evolution, and as we said, kind of scared she'll win. And Raquel Rodriguez on Raw, I guess officially locks in. It's her, it's Roxanne Perez. They're the tag champs, and they're going to be defending them at Evolution in a fatal four-way tag match against a Raw team, a SmackDown team, an NXT team. So she's not dropped off the face of the earth, but there's some sort of story there with the Judgment Day minus Liv that potentially could project her further, but I feel like once Liv Morgan returns that the feud is just going to be Perez versus Morgan with Raquel sort of on the sides, and if she does pick a side, then she's just going to be a bodyguard or a tag team member of that person, whoever she picks. Well, we also had a singles match, Sami Zayn. We had a lot of faith in him going into this match, and he did defeat Karrion Kross.
yeah. Again, I've everything we just said about Raquel Rodriguez, we can pretty much say about Karrion Kross.
Copy paste.
Except it wasn't an injury that kind of derailed his momentum. It was a stupid gimmick. Then a release, and then he came back, and while he's done some things, he hasn't done anything in the ring.
Yeah, it's a case of there's a whole lot of potential there and a whole lot you could do. Um, sure, there's storytelling tidbits with him sort of turning superstars and being that devil on your shoulder kind of character backstage or in the backstage segments, but that's only going to take you so far. And if the fans are not paying attention either, you know, a lot of his stuff is background. He's talking to somebody in the background of a scene, and then the next week he's out there and involved. And now you've got Aleister Black back on SmackDown. I don't know what the future really says for Karrion Kross.
Well,
if he's not going to get that momentum.
Well, at least on Raw, it looks like it's still going to be Sami Zayn because he attacked Sami Zayn, and he wants Sami to say his name. That's quite odd. Could it be setting up a potential Raw debut for a certain out-of-company star? Maybe? We don't know. Maybe it is the beginning of something for Karrion Kross, but we should not get our hopes up.
Fingers crossed. I do like Karrion. I like Scarlett as well, even in the ring. And yeah, hopefully something can get going for those two. Well, United States Championship was on the line. Jacob Fatu coming in as champion. We thought maybe he'd hold on to it, and instead Solo Sikoa enlists the help of a returning Tonga Loa and a debuting Tala Tonga.
Yeah, this is going to be fun watching it play out. Because it definitely looks like we're going to get another like massive like Bloodline Civil War War Games match. Because Solo's got his soldiers now. The question is who will be willing to join Jacob Fatu. Looks like at least at first, the first soldier for on Fatu's side might be Solo's own brother Jimmy.
Yeah, it makes sense. They've been interacting. They seem to be on, sort of a bit of mutual respect line. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes up. We do assume that Tama Tonga will be, once he returns, he'll be returning to the side with his two brothers. Sort of making it Solo, JC, Mateo, and the Tongans. 5 is quite a lot. When opposite standing there, you got Jacob Fatu and Jimmy. They got to find quite a few more friends before we get to November.
Yeah, which I assume will then bring in Jay. I assume Jay will be satellited towards this. Then the question is at that point, is Sami still a good guy? If Sami is still a good guy and hasn't been corrupted fully by Karrion Kross, then we probably see Sami Uso in the match. But then there's like a major question mark for who could possibly be the fifth and final person, because there's really no hints or anything unless they decide, screw it, we're throwing Roman in again.
Yeah, Roman is the easy pick. Not necessarily my favorite pick, but it's easy to pick.
Yeah. But then if you don't pick him, then while the roster is like full of people you can pick, there are a lot of people that would make sense to join the good guys against the Bloodline 2.0 and Jacob Fatu. So it's one of those situations where you would either have to debut yet another member of the Bloodline, this time on the side of the of Jay and Jimmy and Jacob, or maybe the injury to Tama is more serious than we thought, and he won't be back by then, and it solves all the problems anyway.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it shakes out. Obviously, you got 3-4 months to build it, assuming that we're going to pull our way through to Survivor Series, whether that ends up being a Survivor Series match or War Games match, whatever form that ends up taking. That is the typical place to do big group on big group warfare. So we'll have to see how that develops. Let's go into our entrance theme. I know it's early, but let's go into our entrance theme because it is the new United States champion, Solo Sikoa. It is his theme, and he's playing for you right about now. And you're back at the Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. I'm Grady, he's Josh. Queen of the Ring. Jade Cargill, Asuka. The most likely outcome came out on top, and Jade Cargill earns the crown and a shot for the Women's Championship at SummerSlam.
Yep. It was the logical conclusion. With everything we have built since February in the Elimination Chamber, if Asuka won this match, it would have completely flushed out all down the toilet. Because we know where we're going.
Mhm.
We know it's Jade Cargill, Naomi, Bianca. We know that's the direction we're going. We know that some combination of those three women are going to be fighting over the WWE Women's Championship. And the question is that does Naomi cash in first to become champion and then get challenged by Jade? Does Jade beat Tiffany, win the championship, then get cashed in on, and then you have her chase after Naomi? And then where does Bianca come in?
Yeah. Bianca, I think, is the hardest point to figure out. Just because we don't really have a return timeline, and Naomi has the briefcase, and Jade has her match at SummerSlam, so everybody else's positions are pretty well locked in. It's just, when does Bianca come in? Is it going to be SummerSlam? Is it going to be Evolution? Is it going to be later on? And we really do just have to wait and see when she pops into the feud. But I wouldn't be shocked if it was in or around SummerSlam. Let's talk undisputed WWE Championship. John Cena, CM Punk, longest match of the night, and John Cena coming out still with the title.
All right. And people said that the title matches involving Roman Reigns were overbooked. My God. I mean, it was a good match for the most part. But wow, was that a lot of craziness that happened in that. You had interference galore. You had referees getting taken out. You had a referee running down the ramp in a famous callback to him doing the same thing 20 years ago and getting clotheslined by Shane McMahon. And he got clotheslined by John Cena. So, and then you had all the stuff that Seth and his group, which we did say, odds are Seth's going to involve himself in the match and cost CM Punk the match, and that's pretty much what happened. So yeah, it was way overbooked and overcooked. But sometimes overcooking's still fun, and it was fun for the most part.
Yeah, I think as long as the burntness of the match doesn't interfere in the story, the story is still there. John Cena still manages to cling on to his championship. Seth Rollins is still acting like a crazy ex to CM Punk that, he just can't let him go. He can't just move on when CM Punk has moved on. We sort of show who everybody's allies are. Your Sami Zayns, your Pentas, and then you line them up against Seth's group. So spinning out of this, you have quite a bit of content. Seth kind of makes an enemy of every single face on the planet at this point, which makes you not necessarily forget the briefcase, but you think he has enough enemies. I don't think Seth Rollins is going to cash in on a heel John Cena. Maybe down the line, maybe if a turn has been made. But right now, I don't see heel Seth Rollins cashing in on heel John Cena. And so there's a lot of story and a lot of... We knew John Cena's last run was gonna be booked to HE double hockey sticks. Callbacks, as you say, bits and pieces. The interesting bits to me throughout this match was the amount of times that John Cena sort of took notice of what the crowd were doing and their sort of positiveness. And although he still called back to doing the low blow on Cody Rhodes, we did get a little bit of humility out of him. A little bit of a sprinkles of face, and I think that is going to be setting up, because we do only have 5 more months of John Cena. I don't suspect he's going to try and retire as a heel, and so we got to turn him eventually. And we know this stop on the road was CM Punk. We know the SummerSlam stop on the road, which we'll talk about in a second. But we got to also look at those stops afterwards if he does continue being champion.
Yeah. And can I say, for a 60-year-old man, Charles Robinson can still book it.
He runs that faster than I probably would have run that.
Definitely did me. Faster than me. That's for sure. And I'm 22 years his junior. So, yeah, he's good. He's an impressive person for this business, and if a referee ever gets inducted in the Hall of Fame, he's on the top of my list to be inducted.
Well, I said we knew that SummerSlam stop. It was the King of the Ring finals, the opening match of the night. Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes went head to head, and ultimately Cody Rhodes comes out as the winner, locks himself into a WWE Championship match at SummerSlam, most likely against John Cena.
Yeah, and that's about as much as I cared. I really did not need to see this. But I guess it works to set up the match, and you can still have to have question marks about, like, what is that going to be the end of Cena's reign? Because after all, it was Cody that ended the insane reign of Roman. But then
I think Cody can definitely...
Yeah, sorry.
Cody can definitely call himself Kingslayer if he ends up ending the John Cena title reign and that Roman Reigns reign.
Yeah. But also, we have to think about when they called Roman overpushed. They called Cena overpushed. Some people would call Daniel Bryan overpushed when he won the title. Cody Rhodes in 2 years has 2 Royal Rumble wins, 4 WrestleMania main events, a year-long title reign, and a King of the Ring.
Yeah,
not to mention,
I don't think there's any argument against that.
Yeah, not to mention he ended a 1,316-day title reign. Yeah. It's been crazy for Cody.
Yeah, ever since he's returned, he has kind of been that guy, which has worked well, I think, similarly to other people who sit at the top for too long. I don't think it will be too long before people do start turning on him a bit more vocally. I know there's whispers around, but his name's going to start coming up in that conversation, and typically the answer to that, if you're not John Cena, is to just turn heel and embrace it. We saw it work well with Roman Reigns, and always a possibility with Cody Rhodes. But I think looking at their SummerSlam match, John Cena versus Cody Rhodes, the only reason John Cena managed to win at WrestleMania was that Travis Scott interference. We do know now from Night of Champions that there is a whole lot of people willing to interfere in these matches on the side of Cody Rhodes, on the side of John Cena. Seth Rollins floating around with the briefcase, with his crew, with his list of enemies. But I need to look 6 more months ahead. And I got to see WrestleMania coming down the line. And I got to think, John Cena's not going to be at WrestleMania. So what is the plan there? And maybe we're finally running Cody Rhodes The Rock at WrestleMania. Do we see The Rock at SummerSlam be the Travis Scott and come on out and stop Cody Rhodes from ending this John Cena title reign?
It's entirely possible. But it's also possible that we may have finally set the lit the match on the actual feud that we've been expecting for a year and a half. And that being a Cody versus Randy Orton feud that is a blood feud.
Mm-hmm.
Because Orton came out to wish him luck on SmackDown, but there was definitely some hints of possible Randy could end up turning on Cody potentially after Cody wins the title back, and we could get the actual match we've been expecting.
Yeah, obviously we got it as the final for the King of the Ring, but there's a whole lot more history between these two that could be played off, and could definitely be something we see in the future. I think there's a lot of different paths, and similarly to everything leading to WrestleMania, the way SummerSlam is now being built as this 2-night event, this big spectacle, all paths right now are leading to SummerSlam. And maybe I'm looking too far ahead looking at WrestleMania. Maybe I got to stay in the moment a little bit more and just focus on SummerSlam. You know, between now and then, we do have NXT Great American Bash, Evolution for the woman, Saturday night's main event. There's a lot to get through before SummerSlam. Maybe I got to cast my eyes a little bit more short term than a little long term.
Yeah, yeah. I think honestly, I think as far as like WrestleMania and stuff, I think the point at which you start looking towards it will be your guys' Australia pay-per-view. After that, before that, it's too far away.
Yeah, that's fair. Obviously, Crown Jewel October will have Champions v Champions, which, you know, once that is tied up, then yeah, the champions are free and off to run around and do whatever they need to do to get themselves into their feuds. You got Rumble, you got all these other, you got Chamber. So yeah, I'll stick to looking short term, but if I was looking super short term, I'd be looking at Raw this week, where Finn Balor and JD McDonough are the tag champs again.
And we can officially call the New Day's title reign the most mid title reign in recent history.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Nope. This whole heel turn hasn't been great. And it's so sad because they had such a great start to it. But I think the biggest reason that it's failed is that there was no way to have them get their just desserts because Big E can't go.
Yeah.
If Big E could have come back and he could have performed in the ring, I think we would have gotten a much more intense heel turn and a much more enjoyable one. But unfortunately, we got what we got, and it was not good.
Yeah, I think this is going to always fall into one of those big what ifs. What if this New Day heel turn had happened and all the pieces had fallen into place and it was what it could have been? I think to peak New Day at their faceness, their tippy top of being a face tag team, you could have had the exact same sort of levels of excitement with them on the heel side, but they just didn't really get a whole lot of time to shine, and they didn't really do a whole lot with the time that they were given, right? And we just ended up having a heel v heel match and sliding the titles back off to the Judgment Day to pull off whatever storyline we want to pull off with them.
And I don't know if it was just the crowd that was there. It could have been Pittsburgh, it could have been, but Finn Balor and JD McDonough were definitely getting some positive reactions from the crowd. Could we be seeing potentially a new development for what we were expecting, like the explosion for all this time? Mm-hmm. Could we just see them all flip face? And the whole group just go face?
Entirely possible. I don't know at this point. I'm going to stop trying to predict what's going to happen with the Judgment Day, right? You think they're going to explode, you think there's tension between Finn and Dom, and then it continues to pull off, and now Roxanne's there, and I don't know. I can't predict anything to happen to the Judgment Day. Their Schrodinger's stable. They'll either split or they won't. And we don't have a huge amount of time left, but obviously we talk about the SmackDown tag team division being quite a heated place to be with a whole lot of talent, and any combination of the talent can pull off a great match. I want to look at that Raw main event roster, maybe more next week. You know, you've got everybody seems to be either feuding with everybody or so many interconnections between, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Gunther, LA Knight, Karrion Kross, Sami Zayn, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Penta, Jey Uso. There's just so much talent in that either upper mid card or main event spot where anybody can combination with anybody. All the faces seem to hate all the heels. And I think Raw's main event upper mid card stuff is going quite well right now for the
Very
men.
true. Yeah, very true.
Right, well, that is all we have time for this week. It's been great talking to you.
Bye-bye.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling R&D up, our Twitter page, twitter.com/wrestling R&D up, our YouTube page, youtube.com/wrestling RND up, and we will catch you next week.